Vastly different, but still holding the power of citizenship and the power of community animation, is the story about how the Canadian Partnership for Children's Health and the Environment came together to ultimately shift chemicals management in this country and to be the organization that was one of a coalition who got the ban on bisphenol A in baby bottles and created a global market transformation around plastic. I wanted to tell this story because it's the same tools, the same resources, and many of you will have been involved with Kitchi. How many people are familiar with Kitchi? Yay! So I want to tell you this story from my perspective. So I was blessed to have the opportunity to be one of the partnership director for the Canadian Partnership for Children's Health and the Environment. Back in 2000, we started this work. I had the privilege of working with 11 organizations, many of whom will be connected into your network. It was very focused on social determinants of health, but it was specifically focused on toxics and kids' health. The work took, the organization continues to exist today. I was only with the organization for the first 8 years. But why this work has been so important is because we took the concepts of community animation and the power of collaboration to be able to embed those within a multi-organizational structure, which we call the constellation model, that enabled us to come up with a way to work across sectors: health, environment, children's issues. We then, in 2007, engaged in a multi-stakeholder process. This is critical. We had built a coalition of the mostly agreeable over in one area. We had created a governance model that we felt was able to manage power and shift and move power around quite effectively. And then what we did is we engaged in a multi-stakeholder consultation process with the chemicals industry, oil and gas, Health Canada, Environment Canada, and across all of the different provinces in every different level, from municipality to province-wide. We engaged in a 6-city consultation process with, if you will, the enemies. And ultimately what we learned is that, again, the power of social capital, the power of trust, building a sense of certainty and belonging became absolutely fundamental to building the relationships that were necessary to have the chair of the Canadian Chemical Producers Association co-author a letter with the chair of the Canadian Partnership for Children's Health and the Environment, which was sent to Health Canada, which triggered the decision to ban bisphenol A in baby bottles, which then had global resonance. This is the power of collaboration. When we bring intention to the community animation process, it can make phenomenal change. Okay, I'm sharing a bunch of different stories because that way you'll have lots and lots, and my goal here is that you see the threads which connect between these things. I call these threads design elements. People often get confused when I say design elements, but what I mean by design elements, I'll try one more time, although I'll tell you. From these stories, we see patterns. And in those patterns, we see ways of thinking and ways of operating that we can rip off and adapt for our own purposes. So the purpose here is to look and for the trends amongst these things so that you can glean the learning to be able to take into your own work. So when I was kind of done with Kitchi, and my kids were a little older, not that much older, I had this crazy idea. I said, why is it that the nonprofit sector has such a brutal time figuring out how to collaborate and get along? Why is it that people that mostly agree have such a brutal time actually making stuff happen? And I personally found it so deeply frustrating that I thought, well, what would happen if we figured out a way just to share really basic things? Like, what would happen if we shared photocopiers and fax machines and meeting rooms? And if we put people who came from different perspectives into under one roof, what might happen to their understanding of their own work? And so we tried it out. A group of 5 of us got together back in 2004 with a really basic small little project to create a 5,000 square foot space where we brought together 14 founding organizations from environment, health, education, 1 or 2 for-profits, but mostly non-profit organizations. We started and we created this little place called the Center for Social Innovation. I'm going to share a little bit about what we do at the center. The Center for Social Innovation is a co-working space, a community center, and an incubator for people who are looking to change the world. The highlight and the high level is that we now serve over 600 social mission organizations in Toronto and in New York and across the country. I'll just tell you a little bit about this. I'm hoping that this is going to work. Let's see.
Center for Social Innovation is a social enterprise that provides shared space and services to over 350 social mission organizations. We act as a community center and an incubator for people who are trying to make the world a better place. So whether that is for people who've got social ventures or nonprofits or charities, the Center for Social Innovation is a home for people who are trying to change the world. So social innovation is a new term. It's a term that's emerging, and like any innovation, I don't think it's really fair to say there's a definition yet. But I do think that what we know is where we have social need and where we have new ideas coming together is where we see social innovation. We're really interested in the solutions which are systems changing in some way. But we're also super excited about our plans for the future. CSI is delighted to be moving into opening our 3rd location in Regent Park. I think our first 2 locations are city centers. Regent Park will be, I hope, a destination for people in the city, but also be our first move into a neighborhood. One of the things that we believe at the center is that you need to build a culture. And part of the culture that we're trying to create is a culture of collaboration, a culture of community, a culture of idea exchange and networks. I think fundamentally, you have to want to be a part of a community, to be a part of CSI. And it's a vibrant community of folks who are full of energy and life and have a tremendous amount to offer. So whether you're a local food entrepreneur or a city builder, you'll have a home at CSI. It's a vibrant cross-section of people who are trying to make the world a better place.
So the Center for Social Innovation now supports over 600 social mission organizations and projects, tackling everything from farming to finance and everything in between. That is over 1,200 social entrepreneurs or individuals that are working out of our physical spaces. This is just to give you a quick overview of what we do. So this is our founding location. We started with 5,000 square feet at Queen and Spadina, and then we quickly grew. In 2007, we jumped to over 23,000 square feet and serving over 175 organizations. We then did this crazy thing, which I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. We bought a building. Now, one of the interesting questions is how does a little tiny nonprofit organization raise $6.8 million to buy a building? I'll tell you that story in a little bit, but we did. We succeeded, and this is a 5-story building at the corner of Bathurst and Bloor, which serves over 190 social mission organizations out of this one space. Last year, last September, so a year and 2 months, we opened up our 3rd location in CSI in Regent Park. And this was our first neighborhood project, as you heard in the video. It's actually, to be perfectly honest, providing us with all sorts of really interesting challenges. Not as easy as we were hoping, and we're certainly learning a ton about how to engage different kinds of communities. And recently, crazily enough, we got invited to open up a space in New York City. Now, we've said no to over 200 requests to open up new locations in other people's communities. This one was pretty tempting. And so last May, I guess 6-8 months ago now, we entered into a partnership with a real estate developer, RXR Realty, and we opened up a 24,000 square foot space inside the beautiful Starrett Lehigh building. It now serves over 150 social mission organizations in the Chelsea neighborhood, and I have to tell you, it's just been an insane adventure to open that space and become probably one of the world's smallest multinationals. So if you're into organizational governance issues, talk to me later. Holy bureaucracy, that man. Okay, so what does that mean? Right now what we're doing is we operate now 94,000 square foot of space. We serve over 600 members, 4 sites. We're 9 years old. We host hundreds and hundreds of events each year, most of which are focused on capacity building. So what we're really about is we create the space in order to animate the community, in order to create the conditions for social innovation emergence. We have a pyramid that kind of gives you our theory of change. It's a really important one to understand. And most of you, I think, will be doing this in your own communities. We create the physical spaces. We convene in those spaces. We host. We build social cohesion. And we animate the members that come into those spaces. We design for collision. We convene in ways that are outrageous and fun. We host social after social. We attempt, by leveraging their self-interest, to find converging interest. This is fundamental. This is one of the design elements. How do we understand the self-interest of our constituencies? And how do we help them reveal to each other the opportunities for collective benefit? When we surveyed our members recently, I guess not recently anymore, a while ago now. Technology breakdown. Okay, we're gonna be fine. It's good. I'm good. We learned that 70% of our members felt that CSI had enabled them to do their job more effectively. 92% felt that CSI had helped them to expand their professional networks. 86% felt that CSI had helped them to exchange ideas with other social innovators. 85% of them had collaborated with at least one other member. Over 70% of our members had done business with one another, and the average transaction value was $3,000. Over 60% of them felt that being a part of CSI had helped them to generate more revenue. Now, this is really interesting. When we opened up CSI, we thought to ourselves, oh, this is a great way we're going to help save money in the sector. So we don't do that. We don't save money at all for our members. What happened when we did our survey is we realized that all of them, most of them, had come out of substandard or free offices. And this was their coming out party. And so what was happening is actually these were additional costs. But what we did know and what we saw was actually what we were doing was shifting where they were able to spend their money. So in a traditional organization, what would happen is you have an executive director. These are all small organizations, 1 to 5 person operations. You'd have an executive director, your second position would be an office manager. Right? So now what happened is by outsourcing the office management to the Center for Social Innovation, what happens is the second position is a program coordinator, which means that you've got more talent applied to the change you want to see in the world. So we don't save money, but what we do is we shift how they spend their money. And then what we found is that across the board, they were able to raise more money because they were a part of CSI. It was the profile, the legitimacy, the pride with which they brought funders, partners, volunteers, new staff into the space. Bizarre outcomes we did not expect at all. That many of our members felt that being a part of CSI influenced their decision to stay in the organization or not. It was really an interesting outcome to see that actually one of the big impacts that we had was about employment and retention. Bizarre. But I guess what it comes down to is people love beautiful, healthy spaces, and they're willing to work through the difficulties of board members or other folks in order to remain a part of that, because the quality of life is so great. Number one best outcome that CSI has here is 76% felt that CSI had more happier people. I think that's my favorite. Let's give you a quick introduction to some of our members, just give you a sense of some of the work that they're doing. How many people are familiar with the Toronto Tool Library? Great. So isn't that a cool project? So the Toronto Tool Library is an interesting one. This is a project that actually was developed out of CSI. It was a couple of young guys that came together and they said, you know, we want to do something around this collaborative economy work. We had this feeling, we're really, really interested in doing something. And what it came down to was this idea of how, it came down to what CSI was. How do we share? Did you know that the average lifespan of the typical drill, power drill, is 6 minutes? Right? 6 minutes. That is the average lifespan of a typical power drill. And so this one statistic was the trigger for the creation of the Toronto Tool Library. And what the Toronto Tool Library is, they've opened up a location in Parkdale, and it's just that. They've gotten donations from a number of different sources, but the tool companies themselves, to be able to build a tool library where members for $25 a year can come and rent and borrow tools. Super simple. Lovely example of the power of the collaborative economy on a micro-local scale, utilizing the power of technology to manage all of these tools. And this incredibly exciting and ambitious little group is now opening up a makerspace on the east end of Toronto. We've just given them a loan. CSI just recently launched a program called Catapult Microloans, where we give $5,000 to $25,000 loans to our members to help their projects get going. So they were the recipient of one of those loans to open up a makerspace, to be able to help engage young people and local residents in the Danforth area to be able to have access to tools and to learn how to make stuff in their local community. So again, looking at those mega trends, right? We're looking at those trends of the power of collaboration, the power of sharing, how technology is supporting that, and how people are using these tools to reconnect to the power of local. Here's another idea that I think gets at the same big concepts here. How many people are familiar with James Walk? Yay! So James Walk is another idea that actually came out of the Center for Social Innovation. This is not what CSI said, this is the members themselves, but this is an interesting story. A fellow by the name of Chris Winter with the Conservation Council of Ontario was attending a pedestrian walkability event at the center. And he had this idea, he said, you know, it's Jane Jacobs' birthday is coming up, I think we should do like neighborhood walks everywhere. Now, you know Chris, he's kind of crazy. And he didn't get any traction in the room, right? Like, nobody in the room, it was like, he put out this big idea, and nobody did anything with it. But Chris is a determined man, and what Chris did is he walked out of that room completely convinced of his own ideas, and went and connected. How many people know Chris Winter? Yeah, okay. He went out and he connected with Mary Rowe and Margie Zeidler, two of the co-founders of CSI, who were also deeply connected to Urbana Capital and the Maytree Foundation, who were a home to the Jane Jacobs Award. And within 6 weeks, by him connecting to two other members of the CSI community, they were able to put the first James Walk together. James Walk is a do-it-yourself approach to neighborhood redevelopment. It's about people led by everyday citizens, taking walks of their neighborhoods to reconnect to what's important and to be able to build a conversation about how those citizens can reconnect to their communities. What's super cool, one technology platform, the smallest staff ever, absolutely about building trust. Any one of you can lead a James Walk from your neighborhood. All you need to do is go to the website, write up a little blurb, put it out there, then do a whole bunch of promotion. While it's run, people naturally show up. It's crazy, and it's amazing. And those statistics are actually really old now. I think there's over 25, 30,000, I don't even know the numbers, but it's spread globally as a phenomenon, again, building the power of community animation. How many people are familiar with the Austin Foundation? Okay, how many people have Austin Foundations in their communities? Which one is it? Go ahead.
Ottawa?
Ottawa, fabulous. And? Toronto. Well, of course. Anyone else? So just so that we'll bring you guys into the loop, the Austin Foundation is, for me, the quintessential example of what's happening in the field of citizen innovation. This is the shining example in my mind of how citizens are taking matters into their own hands. So, What is it? Awesome Foundation. 10 trustees come together every month with $100 cash at a meeting. And those 10 trustees put that $100 into a brown paper bag, creating a pool of $1,000. There's an online application for people, anybody in their community can submit ideas to do something with that $1,000, to do something awesome in their local community. So now at the City of Toronto, I'm one of the founding trustees of the Toronto Awesome chapter. We've also created Awesome CSI, which is an internal to the CSI community for Awesome. And the Awesome Toronto has now done grants of over 40 grants to support awesome things in the City of Toronto. Now, we love the word foundation, because this is exactly what we're undermining, right? We're completely messing with this sort of officialdom and, reporting and obligation and accountability. And what we do is we give $1,000 with no strings attached. Here's $1,000 cash. We don't even know what's going to happen. We just do something awesome. So what have we built? Rainbow flamethrowers, kind of fun. Kissing maps. So for $1,000, a young woman built a kissing map of the City of Toronto where you can go log on and you can tell a little story and map where you've had an amazing kiss in the City of Toronto. That's good. It's awesome. We've done all sorts of crazy things. In New York City, what they did is they did a Hello My Name Is campaign, where they got $1,000 worth of little stickers that said Hello My Name Is, and they gave them out to everybody who was exiting the subway systems on rush hour traffic, during rush hour. And they started to build relationship and build communication. CSI, Awesome CSI, recently funded something called Project Ukulele Gangsters. How many people are familiar with that? So this is PUG, which is short for. PUG is a group of citizens who we gave them $1,000 to buy ukuleles. And what they did is they did like training sessions. I became one of the gangsters, so I'm deeply in touch with this one. We learned this one song. Have an awesome day, people of Toronto. It was really not a great, brilliant song, but it was such a fun song, and everybody learned how to ukulele. So what we did is at 8 o'clock in the morning, we hit this TTC down at Bay and Bloor, and we rode the transit right to the corner of Yonge and Bloor, and for an hour we sang Have an Awesome Day to the people of Toronto. And I have to tell you, you've never seen more disruption and more engagement. Why are these things so important? Because ultimately, this is about citizens doing it themselves, co-creating solutions for a better world, and finding ways that they can disrupt through the power of love and human connection. Am I doing? Yeah, okay, good. Oh God, I got a big one too, so I'm gonna go really, really fast. I'm gonna just tell you we do some crowdfunding, and if you don't know about that, then go for it. I can tell you really quickly about the community bond, and I'm gonna wrap it up. This one's worth a little bit of time, I promise. So how many people are familiar with the community bond? Okay, so very quickly, what do we do? How did a little nonprofit organization who can't offer VC capital or any kind of equity, how did we raise $6.8 million in under 4 months? So, here's what we did. And please, I beg you, rip off this model. Please do this in your own communities. Please, please, please. So, tiny little organization, we only had 7 staff at the time. Where our budgets were maybe $500,000, maybe $700,000 a year, but we were really excited because we had a whole $50,000 surplus in our bank, which made us like the world's most rich nonprofit ever. And what we did is I fell in love with the building. I fell absolutely in love with this building, and the building was $4.5 million, and it needed $2.3 million worth of work. We were blessed to be able to go to the City of Toronto. Where are my municipal partners here? Show me anybody municipal? No? Okay, well, yeah, good. Okay. City of Toronto gave me a loan guarantee. That loan guarantee was a deal maker. Had the city not backed me, I don't know what would have happened. But with that loan guarantee, I took it to a competitive process and was able to get a mortgage and alternative credit at advantageous rates because of that loan guarantee. Great, I've secured $4.5 million, but how do I raise the other $2 million? So what we did is we created, or basically hybridized, we ripped off from a whole bunch of other different places, a whole bunch of different tools to allow us to create a debt instrument that is RSP eligible, that offers a 4% flat rate return for a 5-year term, which is secured against the property. So we were able to create and to raise $1.4 million in under 4 months and the subsequent $2 million by the next RSP season by offering a bond that was secured against the building and offered a 4% flat rate return, which is double what any GIC will give you in Canada right now. And we made it accessible to anyone. This is huge. Basically, the financial system and investment is made out so that the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. Now, we call that securities regulation, and it's about protecting small guy. I got it. I totally got it. However, what it means is that when we go to access capital for our locally based projects, we're up against some very serious obstacles. We have this regulator that is very concerned about our capacity to deliver. And so what we found, though, was a really juicy little exemption in the Ontario Securities Act, which basically says that nonprofits and charities are exempt from having to go through the regulatory process. The churches use this exemption, but nobody else in the nonprofit sector really knows that it exists. So that's the first one. The second exemption that was quite early, the second tool that we used was that it's a little known fact that mortgages are legitimate RSP holdings. So you can have a mortgage held inside your retirement savings fund. What we were able to do with these two loopholes is we were able to create an opportunity for our members, citizens of Toronto, as unaccredited investors, to be able to invest in helping our dream come true of creating the Centre for Social Innovation in Bathurst. We were able to harness the energy of over 60 citizen investors in under 8 months to be able to create this and to be able to buy the space with a minimum investment of $10,000. So I tell you this story because if we really take a look at what we're talking about here, across the board, the design elements are citizens have the solutions. We have these ideas, we have the imaginations, we have the capacity in our local communities to co-create a better world for ourselves and for our broader communities. And it's up to us to harness that imagination and to think differently about how we can strengthen our communities. At CSI, we have these incredible community animators inspired by you. Thank you for the work that you do, because the work that you have done has transformed my way of thinking to enable me to bring the richness of what you have learned into the work that I do. I believe that it's us here in this room and so many others that need to revitalize our constituencies, that we need to build meaningful partnerships, and you'll notice the word meaningful, smart partnerships. Please don't waste your time on not smart partnerships. We need to find new ways to work across sectors. We've partnered with real estate companies and for-profits and corporations with huge success. Why? Because we know who we are, what we're good at, and what they're good at, and we find meaningful partnerships in which to co-create together. Fundamentally, we're interested in reinventing our processes, rethinking absolutely everything that we do, and not just what we do, but how we do it. Complexity theory, thinking outside the box. We absolutely must question how we organize,